This is one of those that is another unique take that I give on my channel. The reason you guys want to tune in here, this is my breakdown the salary cap video. I did one similar to this last year. I think I fine-tuned it. I think it's going to be more appealing, a little more interesting to people. And I'm going to break down the entire roster in the process of this. But this is one that people should find interesting. So if you don't mind sharing it with your friends, if you don't mind liking it, subscribing if you haven't subscribed, this is the meat and potatoes, nerdy, analytical stuff that I like to bring to you guys that's unique to this channel. So thank you for tuning in, and let's get started. All right, so right off the bat, this is something a lot of people noticed. Before the season ended, we were sitting right here with about $81 million in cap space. And then all of a sudden the season ended, and everybody's like, well, why all of a sudden does it go down? Why do we have a crazy less amount of salary cap? And the simple explanation is the league year ended, and those contracts that we have come to an end, and you've got what they call the rule of 51. So these contracts that we knew were coming to an end, all of a sudden we signed these future reserve contracts. I'm trying not to dummy it down, but I'm also trying to make it so that everyone understands as well. So the rule of 51 is that when you go into 90-man roster, so into the very beginning of when you're compiling your season, you get 90 guys until you get to cut down day when the preseason comes to an end and you're getting into the new season. So in that time frame, you've got 90 guys on your roster, but you can't count all of them against the cap or else you wouldn't be able to hold them all. You've got a salary cap to be able to have all these guys. Now, the new league year, they've already said it's going to be roughly around 275, okay? Before it was estimated 273-ish, okay, but there's still this gap right here, 81 million to 69 million. The Bears have cap space available for them. Why did this number jump so much, and why does it look a little bit different? Well, one example is because we only have 33 guys that right now, 34 guys that will be on the active 53 when we get down to it. But because all these other contracts have ended, all these moves, all these future reserve contracts that we're signing, they're counting them into our 51 because we haven't made the major move yet. We haven't made the moves for, free agency and the draft. Players that are actually going to be on this team's 53-man roster. So that's why I've mentioned in some other videos, don't pay attention to the salary cap right now. It doesn't make sense. It's going to be off and convoluted. But just for an example of that, neither of these guys are going to be on the 53-man roster. No, I'm not Nostradamus, but these are camp bodies. These guys were signed just to come in, compete, give a little bit of depth to be able to have some camp bodies for the 90-man roster. That's exactly what these guys are for. So these last two transactions on the 22nd of this month, Joshua Mills was signed and Alex Cook were signed to future reserve contracts. But they're giving the full value of their minimum contract. Now, a minimum contract is determined by service time in the league. 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year. And pretty much 5 year on is the same amount, around this $1.03 million. So Alex Cook is a little cheaper because he hasn't been in the league as long. This is his second year. Joshua Mills, a little bit longer, so his is a league minimum a little bit more. But both of these together, you can see that's the difference between when I put the video out the other week and then when we just had these two signed. You see how the salary cap went down again? Even though these two aren't going to count against our cap, that's why it went down. It's because it's showing them counting against the cap because we don't have enough guys on the roster right now to really affect the salary cap. If all that's confusing, I'll try to break it down better, and I'm sorry. But don't pay attention to this right now because it's not accurate. That's the point of this. That $1.99 million spent on these guys will not count against the salary cap in the end. The only thing that's going to count for these guys is the 16 that we determined to be on the practice squad. They'll make $225,000 a year for being on the practice squad. Times that by your $250,000 this year. Times that by 16 guys, and that's going to be $4 million that has to be set aside from our salary cap to pay those practice squad players. That's all we have to worry about with those guys. So all these future reserve contracts, even though it looks like $15 million right now, it's only going to come out to be $4 million because those 16 that are on the practice squad are the only thing that are going to count against the salary cap. So here's a full breakdown of it, and then I'll show you something else that a lot of people don't understand, and this will help give a full accounting for the entire thing. Okay, so all these guys over here on the left, they were signed to the future reserve contracts. So all these are our future reserve contracts. They're accounting for $9.98 million. So take that away from your 81, and you're still sitting at 72-ish million. The other thing a lot of people don't understand is escalators that happen in rookie contracts. So in their 4th year, if they have enough service time, if they've played enough, they get a little boost in their contract, and so they cost us a little bit more money. This happened last year with Larry Borum. This is one of the reasons I said we should cut him, because he's not worth that extra boost that we were going to have to pay him. Well, Braxton Jones, he's played well enough, and he's played enough that he gets an escalator. Jaquan Brisker gets an escalator. Kyler Gordon gets an escalator. I'll show that as I go through the entire roster. You'll see it's in purple, and they show that on – this is on Spotrac. So if you're looking on Spotrac, you'll see that's why it's purple. They got their escalator. So that $4.8 million is the boost for all 3 of those guys. They get a boost, and so this is the difference between 80 – now this will count against the cap. So if you take that from there, you're going to get pretty close to our real cap number. But these $9.98 million, including these two are also over here. That $10 million does not count against the salary cap. Consider about 4 of that. And we're going to sign other players too. We're going to sign a bunch of league minimum guys. We're going to sign a bunch. Between now, we're going to have March where we hit free agency. Then we're going to have April where we have the draft. You're going to have some undrafted free agents. And then you're going to fill the roster with those last couple spots with guys. Those 90-man roster are going to be filled with guys that aren't going to make the roster. They're not going to count against the cap in the end. There's only a couple of them we're going to give some guarantees. And there needs to be a little slush money in there too to be able to account for those guys and where they go in the salary or in the roster as well, because we are going to give some guaranteed money to some of these guys to try to attract them to come here. Okay, so where does the roster actually stand? Well, right now, if you break down our entire roster, and this is from my spreadsheets, if you break down our roster, these are the 34 guys that are actually going to be on the 53-man roster. There may be some more that squeak in and make the 53-man roster, but these guys will be on the 53-man roster. Guys like Caleb Williams, Tyson Bagent, DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, maybe not Ian Wheeler. I don't know. We'll find out. I'm high on him. DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Tyler Scott, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett. Maybe we'll cut Gerald Everett. And there is some, I'm not going into hypothetical stuff right now. We can cut Gerald Everett and save $5.5 million. We can cut Ryan Bates and save that entire $4 million. This isn't the hypotheticals of that right now. This is where the salary cap actually stands right now. And if you go through that, you look at our actual 34 guys on the roster, that's accounting for $199,335,738. Now, our dead cap is finally extremely low. Finally. That's one thing Ryan Poles has done an excellent job at. He has got this salary cap down, the dead cap down. So it's only a little over $2 million-ish. So if you take that $2 million, put it on the $199,335, you're sitting at $202 million. That means the Bears effectively really have $73 million in salary cap to spend. Well, take $14 million for the pool that the rookies will be. Our 8 rookie contracts in the draft, which are going to be guaranteed money, they're going to count about $14 million. And then, like I said, the practice squad guys, that'll be another $4 million. So that's $18 million. Take that $18 million from the 73, and you've got about $55 million in cap space that we have to spend on free agency. So that gives you a realistic look at where we really are. And when you look at, we have 34 players under contract and we need to get to our 53. That means 19 guys. Take 8 away from the draft there. So 11 guys we can spend $55 million on. Is there going to need to be a little bit of buffer space? He usually does that. But this gives you a better understanding and a quick condensed version of where the salary cap really stands within this ball club. Okay, so let's pull me off screen here. And this is, we're going to use this to track through the entire offseason. This is going to be the fun thing that I like to do. But this shows how much work has to go into it. And, we're not in bad space with $55 million in cap space, but we have a lot of work to do. So I put over here, just so you guys know the key on this. This is last year's 2024 90-man roster. So we took 16 offensive linemen into last year's, training camp. And right now where we stand, we only have 4 under contract. 4 guys under contract. Darnell Wright, Braxton Jones, definitely going to be on the team next year. Karan Amagaji as a rookie, developmental, most likely 99% going to be on the team. Ryan Bates, who knows? With his disposable contract, it's expendable, $4 million that we could save, and him being basically medically retired. And then, he comes back in, I don't remember what it was, week 12, week 13 last year. Looked like maybe he could go for us and then got a concussion, and that concussion lasted 5-6 weeks through the rest of the year. Who knows what the Bears are going to do, but this is not the hypothetical. This is to show exactly where we are. So right through here, this is where our current roster stands, and these are the 4 contracts for them over here. So Darnell Wright, $5.7 million. Ryan Bates, $4 million. Braxton Jones, you see that purple? This is what they do when it shows the escalators that have been attached to it now. So now his salary bumped up. He's getting paid $3.324 million. And he earned every penny of that. So it's not a bad thing. It's good. He's been playing well and has been playing a huge, significant role for us. So he's a part of this team, and it goes up. So Karan Amagaji still on his rookie contract, $1.344 million for him. So here's the contracts. Here's when they go through. Darnell Wright, 26/27, because he could have a 5th-year option available for him. Braxton Jones expires this year. Ryan Bates expires this year, and Karan Amagaji throws through 2027. Okay, over here on the left is Over here on the left is our future reserve contracts we signed. So these 4 guys, they're counting against our salary cap right now. Most likely won't be on the 53-man roster, but they're counting right now, and they shouldn't, and they won't. Here's the bigger part, the free agents that we have. So here's the guys we could sign back, what their status is. So right now, you see the blue here by Bill Murray? That means he is an exclusive right free agent for the Bears. That means we can sign him and nobody else has a chance to if we decide to. He will have a league minimum contract if we decide that we want to keep Bill Murray on the team. Played really well last year, developmental, switching from defense to offense, but one of the highest grades on the entire team when he played, but then the injury plagued him, and here we are. So the Bears have a big decision to make there. How well did he come back from the injury? Is he worth it in his development? It's a league minimum contract. Do we want to keep him as one of our roster spots? To me, it's a no-brainer. Cut Ryan Bates, put Bill Murray in that spot, sign a free agent on the other side, left guard, right guard, whatever one, and then still draft a developmental guy. That's hypothetical. Will the Bears do that? I don't know. These green ones over here, all these green ones, Larry Borum, Jake Curhan, Matt Pryor, Coleman Shelton, Tevin Jenkins, those are green because they're unrestricted free agents. Anybody can come after them and sign them. The Bears can offer them a contract, but they also can entertain contracts from anybody else in the league. They can take whichever one they want. So that's an unrestricted free agent. They have the most liability, the most ability to go wherever they want, the most freedom, and they can choose to go wherever they want. So that's all these green ones. Then this orange one, RFA, that's a restricted free agent. So somebody can come to Doug Kramer. They can offer him a contract. The Bears can then say, you know what? We're going to match that contract. We're going to keep you. Very similar to what happened to Ryan Bates 2 years ago. The Bears wanted Ryan Bates. He was a restricted free agent. They came and offered him a deal. The Bills went ahead and matched that and made the offer the Bears had given to him their offer, and they kept him. So they had the right to do that as a restricted free agent. So that's how all this works. We'll go through each positional group here, and I'll show you guys. But this is last year's 16-man roster. Where we stand, you can look at the players through there if you want to and see where we stood, but it's more about the number at this point. That's how many we're going to have. And right now we have 4 on the roster. So, well, you actually have, if you're counting that, we have 8. So towards our 16 total on the 90-man roster, we have 8 right now with Ricky Stromberg, Theo Benedict, Chris Glazer, and Joshua Mills. I would dare say none of these are going to make the final roster, the 53-man. I would say Ricky Stromberg, probably Theo Benedict might make the practice squad. We'll see. This is all speculative, but Bill Murray should be a lock to come on. And then will we re-sign Coleman Shelton? Will we re-sign Matt Pryor, Tevin Jenkins? There's no way we should bring Larry Borum back. But that's where we stand right now. We need 8 more guys and really 6 quality guys, a good swing tackle, especially if we're keeping Karan Amagaji. We got to have someone that we can have be a swing tackle ahead of him. And then probably another guard that can shift out to play tackle in a pinch as well. A couple draft picks here and a couple pickups in free agency. There's a lot of work to do, but that's where the roster stands right now. Next, we move to the backfield with quarterbacks and running back. Not nearly as much work to do here. You can see, again, 90-man roster last year. There were 4 quarterbacks on the roster and 6 running backs on the roster. And, yes, they had Bayless Jones listed wide receiver / running back. They were experimenting with him, and that's the reason we kept him aboard. But now we stand here with DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, Ian Wheeler. If you haven't seen my Ian Wheeler video, I'll link that in the description, actually. He's very exciting that he's coming back, but he tore his ACL last year in preseason, basically redshirted the year for us. But Travis Homer and Darrington Evans are both unrestricted free agents for us now, and that's where we stand going into next year. So we do need another running back. Will Ian Wheeler fill that role? Will we re-sign Travis Homer? Will we do it in free agency? Will we do it in the draft? All that's speculative, but this is where the roster stands right now for our running back and our quarterback room. So we move to the wide receivers and the tight ends. Here's where we stand right now. Going into the 90-man roster, we had 10 wide receivers, 6 tight ends, and right now we've re-signed, we have on a future reserve contract Samori Toure and John Jackson for wide receivers. So really we're sitting 5 wide receivers towards the 10. And we have 4 tight ends towards the 6 because Jordan Murray and Joel Wilson we've signed to future reserve contracts. And everybody in the wide receiver and tight end department is unrestricted free agents. So there's no restrictions on them. They can sign wherever they want. DeAndre Carter, Simba Webster, Colin Johnson, Keenan Allen, Mercedes Lewis, Steven Carlson. Got Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett under contract. Again, maybe we'll cut Gerald Everett. I don't know if we would. It's the second year in his contract, and I think there's a lot of excitement to see if a new offensive coordinator, new coach, new tight ends coach, new wide receiver, see if all these guys can help turn around what was happening, because they definitely weren't being utilized the right way last year. But here's just for you guys. I know this is really small, but if you want to, this is something you can come back to if you want to. You can kind of reference where the team stands now, and we'll update it as transactions happen and things go along. But this shows where we stand and where the needs are. And again, we'll have about $55 million in free agency to spend. It'll be important to see, last screen with Bill Murray. If we re-sign Bill Murray, that takes $1 million, and it also makes a cheap contract so that we can sign bigger contracts later. $1 million contract, we're down to $54 million, but then only 17 contracts to sign, 10 total if you count the draft. So 10 contracts and $54 million, that's $5.4 million per. There's a lot that goes into the salary cap. So that's what I want to show on this video. All right, as we move on to the defensive line, here's kind of where we stand. Zach Pickens and Dominic Robinson are their contracts that we have, but these are depth needs. And your defensive players rotate more than any other position during a game. So you need more depth here. You're going to have 8 or 9 dressed during a game. And this is where our biggest weakness is. Right now we got DeMarcus Walker starting. And if we really want to collapse the pocket, that's not Montez Sweat. Good grief. Sorry. My bad, guys. We'll fix that another time. But I'm not going to do that in the middle of this one. Just know that's not Montez Sweat. So anyways, across from Montez Sweat, the position is right. But across from Montez Sweat, we need another stallion. Right next to Jervon Dexter, we need somebody who can also run stuff and get pressure. Andrew Billings had good pressure last year, one of the worst nose tackles in the league at tackling, though. So take that double-team pressure, shed some blocks, do a good job of getting against the run and really stopping the run is really key to where the Bears are. We were horrible at stopping the run. So anyways, we got 3 spots here we need to fill. We have a future reserve signed by Jamari Croma, who I also am very high on. But then you've got some opportunities here. Restricted free agency with Chris Williams. Do we re-sign him? I'm not really impressed with anybody on these positions here except maybe Darrell Taylor and Jacob Martin. Daniel Hardy had an awesome preseason. Do we re-sign him? But then we're weakening, our depth. We really need another defensive end. And are we going to roll into next season with defensive ends that look like we did this year? I mean, that's really the problem with this roster is we've got some mediocre guys and we really need some studs. And we're not spending a ton of money. All we're spending money on right now is Montez Sweat. That's it. And some of these contracts are coming to an end. So we need to hit a home run here. And that's why with an elite defensive line draft, it's so critical we take a couple guys here in this draft. So, a nose tackle, a defensive end, and then fill the other defensive tackle with maybe a re-sign guy, maybe even Zach Pickens fills in there. I'm not high on that, but maybe Chris Williams on a restricted contract or Jonathan Ford on a league minimum contract so we can afford to go get a Trey Smith for the offensive line with $22 million a year. I don't know. This is speculation, but this is where we stand right now. Need 3 spots filled there. We got 15 last year going into camp, and right now we have 7 on the roster, 8 on the roster. So we'll need to sign 7 more. We'll see what happens as we move towards the season, though. As we move to the nickelback and the linebacker position is where we stand. We have Jack Sanborn on a restricted free agency. I would expect us to re-sign him. match whatever author. Same with Josh Blackwell. I would expect us to match his as well. Amen Ogbongbemiga is a unrestricted free agent, and Carl Jones Jr. has been signed to his future reserve contract. You can see Kyler Gordon, as we talked about, he got his escalator, so he's getting paid $4 million this next year. So that's huge for him. That's a big thing. Josh Blackwell should be backing him up. So this one's a little less confusing. Do we draft a linebacker as that fifth one? Does Jack Sanborn get retained? Do we really bring in some competition with some of these guys in the draft? There's a lot of really good prospects in the later 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. So that's a good question as we move into it, but not as many needs here at the linebacker, nickel, or cornerback and safety positions. So you can see we are spending quite a bit there with Jalen Johnson, $21 million, Kevin Byard, $8.5 million, but then these other ones, Shaquan Brisker gets an escalator, but Jonathan Owens not paying much, Elijah Hicks not paying much, Terrell Smith, Tyreek Stevenson, these guys aren't making much. So we're really getting value contracts right now. It's going to be key for us to get some good draft picks and to be able to spend wisely in free agency. But need another corner here. Will that be Jalen Jones? That's kind of my speculation at this point. That would be my prediction. I guess prediction is the word I'm looking for. But here's your other free agents as well. You got Tavarius Moore and Adrian Colbert as unrestricted free agents, and Doug Coleman and Amir Speed as exclusive right free agents as well. And Alex Cook is the one that we just signed to a future reserve contract, so he'll come in and compete on the 90-man roster. And last but not least, kickers are people too, man. Kickers are people too. You got Cairo Santos, Torrey Taylor. They're not going anywhere. Long snapper, most likely Scott Daly, with his being a cheaper contract than Patrick Scales. I would assume you'd bring one of them back, probably Scott Daly. I don't know. We'll find out. But he would be the cheaper option with his service time. But here's your 40-man or 90-man roster. We had 4 of them last year. Might even sign both of them, bring them into camp. Who knows? But and over here on the right, here's your entire thing we've gone through. Here's our needs just to get to 53. You've got DeAndre Swift and Roshan. We need one more running back. Bring me back on here. And then we have a couple more wide receivers we need. Another tight end. 6 linemen. 3 defensive line. 2 linebackers. 2 secondary. And 1 special team. Just to get to the 53. The guys that will actually carry. And then on top of that, you're going to have 20 other players that we're going to have. 15 other players at this point we're going to have to bring in for future reserve and for 90-man roster, unrestricted or undrafted free agency. That type of stuff. So this is where it stands right now. Let me know what you guys think about this. I really like the way this is compiled better than the way I did it last year. And does this give you a better understanding of where the salary cap actually stands and how those future reserve contracts won't count in the end? The biggest thing to remember, there's the 51-man roster rule. The 51 most expensive contracts are the only ones that are going to count against the salary cap come camp time. That way you can carry the 90-man roster. And then when we trim down, we have to have the 53, equal below the 275, and we'll have all the draft picks and all the stuff by then, minus $4 million for the practice squad guys. But that gives a better understanding of where we stand with the salary cap. Don't pay attention to those other ones that are not going to count, because we still have, that $55 million when you take away the $14 million for draft picks and the $4 million for practice squad. You still got roughly $55 million. So that's where the Bears really stand right now, is right in that $55 million range to be able to spend on free agency, which isn't a ton when you take into consideration if people want Drew Dahlman, that's $12 million. If you want Trey Smith, that's $22 million. That's $34 million right there alone. And then, you got $20 more million for 9 more guys. That's $2 million in contracts. So you can sign a couple big ones, but then you got to have league minimum guys. So it really limits what you can do. And then you start playing around with that, and you realize it doesn't go as far as you think it might go. But the salary cap is, we're actually in good shape with low dead cap, with the contracts we do have. Some of them, more disposable. Like next year, Tremaine Edmonds will be a disposable one. We'll have some of them coming off the books. And if we can build through the draft and through, proper planning, we can build some like replacing DeMarcus Walker's $6 million contract with a rookie contract. Say we get Princely Uman-Mielen or James Pierce, or heck, if Abdul Carter falls to us, we get one there in the first round. That's going to be a cheaper contract compared to, say, Montez Sweat. He's $25 million. we'll get that cheaper rookie for, 5, 6, 7 million. You see how Rome Odunze last year was on his rookie contract here. He was a 10th or 9th overall pick, and he's 5 million, so that'd be around the same for that defensive end. That's a good contract. And same thing in the second round. Those will be cheaper, $2, $3, $4 million contracts for number 39 and number 41. Those can be offensive linemen, a guard, and a tackle maybe. But there's version 1 of the salary cap discussion. Let me know what questions you guys have. We can do a question and answer on this whole thing. But that, if you just go back and look through there and pause on the spots where the 51-man roster is the main thing to learn from. Top 51 contracts will determine the roster, the salary cap, as we go into camp. Then we'll cut down. But really, where we stand right now, we really have $199 million in contracts, of real contracts, of the ones that will count against the 51. We got $2 million in dead cap. And then you've got your $14 million for draft picks and your $4 million for practice squad. And then you're going to have some buffer cap in there too. But that's where we really stand. So there is a good opportunity here, but there's a cleaner understanding of the salary cap and where we stand. Hopefully I didn't make that more confusing. Hopefully that helps you guys. But let me know what questions you have. Let me know where you think we stand, what moves you like, and then I will get into more speculation. I'm going to break out the spreadsheet for the next one, guys. I'm going to break down and show you what I do with my spreadsheet. I did this last year. Seemed to be one of the more popular videos I did. So the spreadsheet, I think you guys like a little bit more. And I will make that available on Twitter as a shareable file, and I'll update it as we go through the offseason. That's something a couple people have asked last year, so I am going to do that. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please hit the like button if you haven't done that. Subscribe if you haven't done that. Share that with your friends. And I appreciate you guys building this community. It's a lot of fun to share the unique approach that I do, the nerdy analytical stuff, as well as, the takes. I don't get into the reporting and enough of that stuff as much as I should, but I do a lot of fun things with the draft. I understand the draft picks, draft order, draft speculation and stuff like that, and we will do some stuff on the Senior Bowl. A lot of exciting stuff happening with the Senior Bowl right now. We're getting right into that right now. Then we're going to get into the Combine, free agency, all that stuff. It's going to be fun. So keep tuning in. Appreciate you guys. Till next time, da Bears, and bear down.